Right, there was big news coming out from Liverpool this week, and it involves Federico Chiesa. He has just signed for Liverpool. He's completed his medical, he's agreed the deal, and he's now a Liverpool player. And they've got him for as cheap as 10 million. I think it was about 10 or 12 million. That's cheap. That's very cheap for a guy who's very highly rated in Italy. It's a very cheap price. But then you've got to ask yourself, what's the catch? Like, why was he so cheap? I know he had a year left on his contract, and I think he was on high wages, so Liverpool were able to get him cheap. But still, that's very cheap. And I think to myself, they might have hit the jackpot there. Because if you look at Liverpool's starting front three, it's a wonderful front three. And then you think Chiesa's coming in just to provide a little bit of competition. For about 12 million, that's a very good deal. But it's a complicated one because the Juve as a football club were, from the sounds of it, quite in a hurry to get rid of him because the wages he was on, the fact that he had a year left on his contract, and I think injuries as well, loads of injuries. I think they were just grateful to get rid of him. But the Juve fans are very unhappy because they still think when he came back from his injury last season, they still think he was one of their best players. And I don't watch Serie A, so I'm just taking Juve fans who watch him week in, week out. I'm taking their word for it. And a lot of them are unhappy. So that must tell you all you need to know about the player. He must have something about him. But if he's got a history of injuries, that is a concern. No one really knows. Like, your average football fan doesn't really know how good he is. Let's be honest. You'd have to watch Serie A on a regular basis to know just how good he is. I mean, I've seen him quite a few times, about 10 times, I think I've said, but that's not enough. You know, watching him for Italy or watching him in a Champions League, it's not enough. You need to watch this guy week in, week out, and then you can see how good he is. And now he's at Liverpool. When I've seen him for about a few months, I'll be able to have an opinion on him. But right now, I can't give you it. And if I do, I'm just making shit up. Do you know what I mean? And everyone does this. All these journalists and all these, I suppose, supposed YouTubers, they all tell you about a player and they say it so convincingly, but you know for a fact that they haven't watched him. They've probably looked at a couple of stats. They've probably heard bits and pieces of what other people have said, and they say it to you like they firsthand have seen how good a player is. And I'm not going to do that. Listen, if I do a video on a player who's come in and I don't know much about, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much about this guy. I've seen him a few times, but, you know, that means nothing. Like, people will constantly say about the goal he scored against Spain in the Euros. I mean, that was 3 years ago, and it was one game. He's a player that we're just going to have to trust the Liverpool scouts that they've made the right decision, and we can only hold an opinion until we've actually seen him play. But I look at it, it's a left winger that Liverpool have brought in. So you look at it, supposedly you've got Diaz, Jota and Salah as the front three. It means you've got Chiesa now, you've got Nunez, Gakpo, Harvey Elliott. So that's 4 players who can potentially play in the front 4 positions if you're including Szoboszlai as the number 10. So Liverpool have definitely got their strength and depth, you know, in terms of the 4 positions. And defence they have as well. But I'll go back to it. You know, I'm not going to bang on about it because it's a video about Chiesa, but Liverpool need a defensive midfielder. I've said it from day one. They need that desperately. If they just want to settle for 3rd place, then maybe they don't need one. But if they want to really kick on and push Arsenal and City, they need that defensive midfielder now. And they've got 2 days to do it. But the problem is, anyone now is a panic. Anyone now is a panic. But, you know, that was for another video, which I've done before. This is about Chiesa. He's been brought in by Liverpool for a good price. He'll provide good backup for Diaz. But let's just wait until we see him play. You know, let's wait until we see him play a run of games, because it sounds like he's had a few injury problems. But considering he's a backup, considering it's a cheap price, I think Liverpool got a good one there. But we just have to see, is he the real deal or is he not? I'm sure we'll find out in the next coming weeks.